that we sell merchandise, and I've never shot in a bit different t-shirts and talked about it. There's so many colors and different sizes, and you see, I'm donning one. There's another different designs. There are a myriad of choices to choose from. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Nekesa Ochieng. Welcome to another exciting episode, and I'll let my guest introduce himself. Let me just say something interesting or something unique. First time hosting a young single man. The men that have shown up on this podcast have always come in couples. I've never had a young single man on the Be Different podcast. So, first, welcome, Raphael.
Many thanks, Nekesa. I must confess I didn't see that coming. I almost said ouch, but then I decided that I'll have my turn. Anyway, my name is Raphael. My reputation clearly precedes me that I'm single, but also I'm a civil engineering student, 5th year, and I'm not that young. You can see by the beard, I've grown a little bit.
We will believe you.
You better.
Can we believe you, right?
Yes.
So Raphael had an interesting perspective, and I thought you should hear it. He reached out and said, Nekesa, I have something to say, and I listened, and he said, I'll pick your words, right? The
Sure.
youth are wasting away in indulgence, right? And of course, I frowned upon that statement the first time. I feel like I still qualify. I'm still youth. I'm still youth, right? So I wanted Raphael to come and actually explain what he means, and then we just have a discussion around it. So what do you really mean by the youth are wasting away in indulgence?
Okay, you use my words against me. It's okay, I'll grant you that. What I meant by that statement generally is this. We have a nature of being permissive. We tend to sacrifice our long-term treasures for, short-term pleasures. So anything but to avoid the work that we really need to put in to actively shape our lives, as it were, by our own actions, words, and always being complacent in the sense of I'd rather sit down in my comfort, suffering is overrated, have life smoothly, maybe manifest a thing or two by lighting candles and saying positive things about ourselves without really considering what is the point of even doing that in the first place.
As opposed to doing what?
As opposed to just doing what man has been doing for years. Get out of bed, spread your bed, get to work, sleep with good conscience, do it again the next day.
Do we have that leeway with the systems in place, one, with the culture in place? Do we have that leeway with the people who've gone ahead of us and all the stories and the pictures that are painted for us? I'll go into details later, but do we have the leeway?
Hey, you've asked so many questions.
Yeah, I know.
Do we have the leeway? I'll say yes and no. Yes, we do have the leeway because I think every man speaks for himself. And by man, I mean men and women. Please don't take me wrong on that. So that is entirely up to you because one, as everyone is, you're endowed with that goodwill. You have a will that you decide what you really want with your life. Number two, the question about the system.
Yes.
We should realize one thing. The system does not work on its own. It works because somebody works it. We work the system. The system does not work us. And the question of culture, I will mention this. We are African, but whatever culture we are selling right now, it's not even African.
What are we selling?
It is acquired. It's acquired culture. It is an acquired culture.
We are so lost that way.
Well, and I think willfully. Not so lost. I wouldn't want to doom the world. Yes. But at some point we took the easy way out.
So when I asked you how, this is what you said. We are wasting our way in how we relate to each other.
Yes.
Give us examples if you have.
Oh, yeah. Examples are plenty. One, let's see how we relate with our friends right now. Most of our friendship are based on the premise that we are only friends as long as we affirm each other. There's oh yes. There's no room for error, mostly in friendship. So we have to work on actions most of the time. that if there is a certain line, if you cross, we are so dedicated to have boundaries, and these boundaries tend to close ourselves in and lock everyone out. So if you cross this line, then our friendship comes into question. There's no opportunity for forgiveness. We are busy cutting people off. Maybe for you, at least you've not been cut off.
No, I've had you.
But being cut off myself, it counts.
So this walk, no, the word that came to my mind is walk. This walk thing,
Walk
we are
culture.
walk. So yeah, if you hurt me, I cancel it.
Yeah, that's it.
So how is that? Okay. Is it that we are aware? Is it that there's a level of awareness that has increased? Is it the issue of information? Because on one hand, I recently read a post and now I'm seeing what you're saying. Someone was saying nowadays all these things of toxicity and narcissism is everywhere. Like we are calling everyone a narcissist. Do you think that's the truth first and foremost? And do you think secondly we are wrong by doing that?
First, I'll start with your first question. That do I think that this culture is mostly due to that we are more educated? Sometimes I even fear calling myself educated because one, the purpose of education is to make life better in our relationship and everything. It is not one to build resentment, and it's actually a question of envy, and people call it social justice. Number two, what was your second question?
Whether we are wrong. You see, the whole sense of heightened information and just being aware of everything and everyone has made us label so many things and people. Everything is toxic, and
yes, Nekesa, don't agree right now, and I have a right to identify you as a toxic lady. But one thing is, based on what evidence? Because I am offended? No, you have the right to offend me. If at all that it will guarantee you free speech. Because one thing is, as much as the truth hurts, you have the permission to offend. That is something for me to deal with. Number two, it is almost like what we learned in Kiswahili, hekaya za bunwasi. You remember that old sungura that couldn't get good fruits from a tree after throwing stones and everything? Then he started saying, you know what, even the tree is not good, it's ugly. The fruits don't even taste good, I'm sure they are rotten. But he has not had a taste. Number three, why we are wrong is we do not introspect. Because the thing we are quick to point out in our friends and our neighbors as toxic, it is the very things we struggle with. The very same things. So when we try raise it up even in a conversation, then it's reduced to slogans and beliefs. So you even wonder, am I arguing with a person? Or there's some colosseum back there that I have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said your second point was how we interact with the world and how we think through and solve our problems.
Yes.
That piqued my interest. What do you feel is wrong in how we solve our problems?
One, let's be less entitled. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I deserve this, I deserve that. You saying that does not make it so. Number two, we live in a world that is broken. If you really need an example, you just need to look at yourself. So, and that what makes the essence of everything. That we now put our effort to make the world a little bit better, or even a little more better. Depends with how you look at it. But this thing of imagining that the world is supposed to be perfect and perfectly aligned to my will, we find that at the time we are thrown by so many things, we end up feeling crushed. We lose hope. Then we look for something else.
Which is?
My first point, indulgence.
Okay, when we were talking, before we started recording, you said something about the, drinking, going out. And do you think this is one of the hows we solve our problems or we deal with issues?
Oh yes. And it's a stark, I can use a stark example. I've been a student in the university for 5 years, and I can tell you 70% of my fellows cannot wait for Friday. Why? They've suffered too much to study. Number 2, studying is boring. Number 3, they're broke and nothing is working out. So what do? We can't wait for Friday. What happens on Friday? We have a feast, then a hangover later. So we end up spending a lot of money, which we do not earn. Number 2, we end up wasting a lot of time. Number 3, Saturday is recovery mode, just in time for Saturday sherehe, then on Sunday. And then when it comes to Monday, we are stressed again. And you ask someone, why are you stressed? It's Monday, man. We're supposed to be stressed on Monday. But I think that's a really grim look at life. Really.
Raphael, I feel like you're coming from a very, pardon me, I feel like you're coming from an ideal space and an ideal upbringing. Because personally, I feel like people are layered, right? And someone may do something right now that may not necessarily be influenced by whatever is happening around them, even that week. It could just be something else.
Yes.
You know, people are just fighting a lot of, you know. So why judge them? Why judge someone because, okay, not judging, but yeah. Why are we going to perceive them as people who are wasting away, or the whole thing of, you know, you're wasting time with your life, you're supposed to be doing this or that. And maybe that is a healing process for them, for, you know, something else.
Okay. One, I knew by saying some things I'll put a target on my back, and my words will be used against me. Number 2, it is not that I sit in a place of judgment. When I say youth, I am one of them. I've wasted myself in one way or the other. I don't take up all opportunities. I don't show up in time. I was late for this podcast, for example, and I didn't say sorry. So does it count if I say it now?
Just go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, yes, it is because I'm not a private or a secluded person who sits aside on a mountain and then looks down on society. Geez, you guys are losing it. No, it is something that I'm seeing. And number 3, it is not an issue of perception, it's just an issue of facts. You see, we take medicine when we are sick. We don't take poison. The thing is, we are healing from a lot of things, but I think it's scientifically proven. I think a lot of people will agree with me that in a process of healing, indulgence is not the way to heal. Indulgence is not the way to heal. Yes. So, in as much as we may say it is something far removed in history or in the lifetime of the person, then that is surely not the way. Especially when we just do it on repeat. If it is a one-off, yes. But I think we should, I think, and also I would like to point out something that you said about idealism. I don't think it's idealism, it's more of what is practical, in the sense of, I think, let me just use alcohol for example. I love whiskey, and I think whiskey has a lot of fire, it brings out the fire. But my point subtly here is, I think alcohol should be enjoyed. It is something to be savored, not something to wake up with migraines, puking all over the place, and losing control. You can't even remember what you did, although I'm told that's the point. Yeah.
I won't comment on that. So what do we make for ourselves in terms of responsibility, career, and family?
Oh yes.
Where are we losing it on that?
Where are we losing it? It's not a matter of even loss. I don't think we even appreciate it much.
Tell me.
Now, so that I put myself out of idealism, I'll take this chance. When I used to date, I was so happy. In fact, I had also the mind of marrying. Oh yes, and then, you know, Nairobi and its things, you know how it happens. Character development. I have an honorary degree from KICD, Kenya Institute of Character Development, yes, in psychology too. So you do realize that in that state, I had the hope of, you know, starting a family. And then after it went away, I was part of the bandwagon that said, you know what, why would I stress myself for family ever again? So one thing, we don't appreciate family, at least speaking for most of us, it's something that we dread. Responsibility is something that you dread. If it's anything to go by, most of us are scared about this adulting thing. We talk about it. Why do you expect me, a former baby, to start paying bills?
Former baby?
Yes.
To start doing what?
To start paying bills. I mean, especially right now when inflation and prices of everything is hiking. I checked, the dollar was 115 the other day. I mean, in a span of 10 years, it has doubled its value.
I wanted to just stop you on something. Did you lose hope of having a family because of one relationship gone wrong?
No. It is one thing is, well, there's that personal touch which does not miss, and then it's not the only one. I confess myself that was not a healthy relationship,
Okay.
but it's sounded like a track record of failure. You try once, twice, thrice, and then it doesn't work out. I think you get the gist. And then friends all around you are having trouble.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yes.
you're looking around all your peers, all your mates.
And that's,
Same case,
and
same
that's
story.
just the tip of the iceberg. Let's look at our parents, for example.
What
And
about them?
I think it's one of the tragedies of our time. Our parents, most of us come from broken families.
Okay.
Yes, and that has a way. If it's not broken in the sense of separation or divorce, then it's dysfunctional. And so you look, what is the point?
Okay.
Yes. So we try to leave out our hopes elsewhere, and then it fails, and then just that cements the last nail to the coffin. And you know what? Let's just remain single, should we? But anyway, no,
And career?
Oh,
How are
career.
we dropping the ball on that one?
Dropping the ball. When it comes to career, I think we need to separate the idea of career and job. A job is something you go to report to every day, so that you have something at the end of the month to keep you going, and enough to keep you going back to work the next month. I think most of us, that's what you look for. But career, this is something where we sacrifice. You sacrifice your time. If you have to go back to academia, if you have to work late night hours, if you have to work overtime without even the promise of a stipend, even just for that, which I think it is shunned most of the time. We really don't want a career. We just need a well-paying job. But that doesn't count for career. See, that's a job separate from what a career is. It's something that, one, you love doing, number two, you give it your all. You get that combination, you're on your way of making a career. But the kind of motivation we have with money, I call it mysticism. I don't think careers are really being given the attention and the sacrifice that they need.
And the thought.
Yes.
So generally, what I'm hearing you say, if all these things that we've discussed are in one person, how do we call that person? Is that person lost? Is that person processing something? Is that person in the middle of an already broken society? Is that person...
That question is a mouthful. Let's start from the first one. I wish to allay every claim that I'm calling people lost. The idea here is, I think we are a very reasonable society, and we are a very reasonable generation.
We are reasonable.
Yes, we are. That's how even conversation is possible. If it wasn't, then it wasn't reasonable, we didn't even talk about it. Number two, if I'm not calling them lost, I think it's just something about progressivism. It's not that we should keep up on the path that we are, but if we realize there's a turn we made wrong, it is more progressive to go back than to go forward and find out what that path leads to. If we realize we lost, it's time to circle back. Go find your bearing again. Point it north, then continue with your journey. That's the whole point of my exegesis on this point, on these things that we've discussed. That there's a place we are losing it. And if we can identify that place, I think our lives will be happy.
Are we aware that we lost it?
Well, some may be aware, some are just complacent, and some of us would rather not do anything about it.
Recently, some young men committed suicide. Several. they followed each other. And I know, and I'm sorry to the world and to all the young men, there are these memes. As recent as last week, we were making jokes about memes in the office about this. I'm sure you've seen it. This one for if you're a man and you ask for directions, you're a princess. And Esther Nekesa is one of those people who will laugh about it and go ahead and make jokes about it.
Mm-hmm.
As a young man,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where to start from. Can you just comment? I have so many questions, but just comment because we are throwing stones at you guys. There are all these things about nowadays young men are eating noodles. Nowadays young men are doing what? Like we really throw stones at you guys, and yet we are giving. I like to look at it also as a form of giving tough love. Like we want to tell you guys, man up. There's a perception we have of young men now, mental health, the suicides that have happened, and we're sitting here and we're wondering what's going on.
A lot is going on, and I don't think it is going on because you laughed at a meme.
Okay.
I think it's something worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
And now laughing just aggravates the point. So, there's this thing that is coming up, toxic masculinity. And I think the society has been big on it,
Mm-hmm.
that men are supposed to act in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you act in a certain way, you are toxic. So sometimes a man is lost. Because, one, where are our fathers? I'll ask that question, where are our fathers? Because our fathers are not close to us.
Okay.
That is one. And that is, I think for our majority, that's where it stems from. Our fathers are not responsible for us, at least. Not responsible in the sense of giving us material stuff,
Yeah.
but being, for a man, your dad is a hero. But
Yeah.
if he's absent, you try, one, it's either you try showing that you can do it without him. Number two, you tend to find that figure elsewhere, which that figure can come in all shapes and sizes, most of the times bad. Alright? Number two, we are not being given a guide on how to go about things that face us. In as much as we say it's okay for men to cry, it's okay for men to do all this, yeah, that is all slogan and all that. But who is willing to sit you down, hold you down and tell you, you know what, yes, this is what you're going through. But the thing is, you need to man up. No, manning up is not something toxic. It's something that you do. Men by nature are supposed to be responsible, even for their own mess. But this thing where we, just a slap on the wrist, no, make men aware. This is not the kind of way to be a man. And who better to do that than our fellow men themselves, in the person of our dads, in the person of our mentors, may it be. So I think it is a question of irresponsibility. Number two, it's a question of mushy thinking.
Marshall.
Yeah, mushy thinking.
Mm-hmm.
This thinking. Yeah, seriously.
Oh.
Yeah, it's mushy thinking,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Because one thing is, if you have built up capacity in yourself, and that's something men in their formative years should be doing, building up capacity for crisis. Because trust me, life is lined up with all of that, just waiting for you. When you're not covered by daddy and mom or school, then you just open your mind. That's where the rain starts beating you.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the reserve of capacity of forbearance, of patience, of courage, all that come into question. Because at that time you are not just responsible for yourself, but for many other things. And that is, I think, where the problem starts.
And this whole thing of leadership, do you feel like it's asking too much from you guys?
Leadership.
When we say generally men are supposed to be the leaders, now that you're saying you're crossing that bridge from former baby to adulting, on this other side we are looking up to you.
Yeah, that is
If you were to pick,
Yes.
if you were to pick a wife, if that relationship would have gone well and you were to settle down,
Oh yes.
you were supposed to lead that home. Did you feel like you were, capable, equipped?
I'll answer that question twofold. One, a man must have enough confidence that he can do something.
Fake it till you make it.
Not in that sense.
It's true.
Yes.
Confidence.
You must have confidence. Not because of something far removed, but because you've been able to show leadership in small things, even among the boys, even in whatever place you're involved, schoolwork, even playing games. That's where you form your, even just that playing thing you do as a child. Those things really build your capacity, because that's when you learn to be fair, you learn to listen, you learn to offer leadership, you learn to be responsible. Because when my sister gets hurt, then I tend to her, not throwing stones at her, laughing. You see, exactly. Or when one of the guys hurts my sister, then I stand up to them. Exactly. There's that confidence that you need, but that is backed up by building capacity. Now the second part of that, a man must be scared enough as well to take what he's doing seriously. If it's neither here nor there, then why would you do it? And that now points to courage, because when you are now responsible for someone else's life, that is not a light task. I mean, it's going to take a lot from you, not just financially. As a person, this person has the potential of breaking everything apart. You need to stand up for that. Number two, you're going to lock yourself for eternity with this person. Well, although for a time you can just lock yourself for 10 years and you say, you know what, it's not working out. I was not meant for this. Yes. But let's assume it's serious, right? Yes, you're going to be responsible for a lot of things. And that should scare you enough to take it seriously. I think my twofold answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is the place of work and entertainment before we come to families?
Oh, a place of work and entertainment. I think work precedes entertainment, not the other way around.
Do you
It's
feel like
a fast, then a feast, not a feast, then a hangover.
Do you feel like we have it the wrong way?
Oh, well, the thing is, I mentioned this before. The thing is, we work, but the goal is something else. It is not even about self-fulfillment most of the time. It's about to get enough to go by. And we can't wait to be distracted. We can't wait to be distracted. And that's just on a light note. Now, even more subjectively, when it comes to work, I mean something meaningful, something that you're responsible for, not necessarily that generates income. In the sense of this, we have something that you're responsible for at a given time. For example, right now, my role is primarily as a student, right? And it means that I give my time and give the best I can. Even if it means waking up early in line with that. But you find most of us, okay, now when I say most of us, now it sounds accusing. But I just have to call a spade, not a big spoon. The thing is, we are busy doing everything else, apart from being a student. Everything else. Could be sherehe,
looking for money.
could be every other thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even a matter of just the young. It's something even the old do. Too responsible. When you ask a dad who is never at home, I was busy looking for money for you, so I don't have to see you every day. But no, your primary responsibility to me, I'm not your employer, I'm your son. I need my dad. I don't need dad the worker all the time.
Wow.
So yes, the thing is, the place of work is our primary responsibilities. I think we need to clearly know what they are, and we give it much. I have no problem with entertainment. I think it works well after work. In fact, you enjoy it even better. Yes.
What did you mean by this? Our relations with our families and how best to come out and right.
Oh yes. It's really sad, and it's something we our families are broken, not in a way that it's not something they couldn't do anything about.
You think?
That it's something could be done, but someone hanging the towel.
When you say broken, what do you mean?
Broken in the sense of one, I'll talk about especially from our parents. One, our parents are either absent. Number two, they are broken up, and then we do not know with whom to stay. So we end up picking sides. Number three, the place we are supposed to find love, refuge, and it's the first place where we are having our mental problems stem from.
So this is home.
Yes. And just go to any forum, or if you really work well with those of my age, millennial studies, just go and ask by show of hands, how many of you come from troublesome families? Either dysfunctionally broken, or the parents are not together, or the dad is nowhere to be found, or the mom, whatever. You'll find many hands. Many. And I bet more than 50% of that population there. And how are we supposed to relate with that? Because I think children should be born in a loving relationship. They should, and it's a right. But that is taken away from them. And the greatest losers are them. And I think most of the mental issues we are having, it stems right from there. Because I tend to read a lot, and I saw that even by the age of 2, you already know how your kid will be interacting with the world. It's either that it's secure, avoidant. It's either of those. And it all comes up from upbringing. Yes.
So how do you suggest young people, the whole issue of coming out alive, how do you suggest, we handle this going forward?
And the first one is the hardest one. And I think, but it's unnecessary. One is like going to a dentist. Otherwise the infection will spread all over. One is we need to practice forgiveness with that, especially with our parents.
Okay.
I know we expect much from them, and reasonably so. I expect my dad to be there. I expect my mom to be there, right? But they're not. And it's not any helpful carrying that resentment. It's not any helpful. Number two, how many times do we sit down and we realize that our parents are human? They can lose it too. But we have an idea of them that they're supposed to be perfect. Well, I would get that as a 2-year-old, you know. But right now we need to realize that they also have traumas, in as much as we claim traumas for ourselves. They do have traumas. Number two, they're human. They do not express themselves in the best way possible. Number three, the idea of love may not match what we think of what love is. Yeah. So sometimes we get frustrated by how they treat us, and we say, they don't love us anyway, so which is not true. They struggle though this way. I may love you to the moon and back, but I do not know how well to express it.
It could be expressed differently.
Expressed differently. But now we pick bonds with the expression rather than the love itself. The actuality, the existence of it itself. And then number 4, don't let perfection be the enemy of good enough. Yeah. Our parents don't have to be perfect, they just have to be good enough. And if they're not good enough, it's best if we forgive them. Not sweep it under the rug. I think forgiveness comes with the presupposition that you have to realize that what the other person did was wrong. That's the first part. And what it did hurt you in 1,000 different ways, like 1,000 knives at the same time. And with that realization, and you still say, I still won't hold it against you. You know what? I won't do that. It's something difficult to do. But then it sets you free. When you stab, you don't let the knife stay there. You have to take it out for you to be sutured. I'm just asking you to take away the knife. Yeah.
Guys, you're hearing it from Raphael. Raphael, I'm listening to you and I don't hear. I'm waiting to hear that place for seeking help, for mental health. Because you're saying we are messed up, right? We are agreeing, and it's coming from so many other places, and the biggest coming from women. But that point is not coming out. Is it that? Okay,
maybe I must have just started with it, because I think it's something that has been overemphasized. That I thought maybe it was not something that I would
Not
love to repeat.
really.
But yes, we need to find help. But where do you find help? Where do you find help?
So
That is
that's a
question.
challenge.
Yeah, that is a challenge. Well, we are not just an open book that we'll just open up. In fact, we don't even share it with our friends most of the time. Yet they get the worst of it sometimes because we lash at them. They have to deal with the moods every day. So where do we get that help? And how do we start getting that help?
So young people don't know where to go for like mental.
Well, they do know. They do know. Just like with COVID, we knew if you get the vaccine, but not everyone went for it. Not because they do not know. But one thing is, we have to realize that opening up from a place of vulnerability is not easy. Number two, I do not know you. Why should I open up to you?
Excuse me, you go to a doctor.
Yes, it's a doctor.
When something, like you use the example of a dentist.
Yes.
When you have challenge with your teeth like you should just go always, I think it's once a year. Even if you don't have any challenge, you should go to your dentist once a year.
Yes.
And we are talking about mental health, but you don't think you should seek the help?
No, I didn't say we should.
Regularly?
I didn't say we should not seek. What I'm saying is, we know we should seek. The problem is that it's not of knowledge. The problem is, why don't we do it? And those questions that I asked were more rhetorical to try open you to the space someone is in. Personally, I've gone through a lot of stress and depression, and trust you me, opening up about it, that is the first hurdle.
First hurdle.
That is the first hurdle, because no matter how we make it trend or not, it becomes a matter of will.
Okay.
What good does it come? What good comes of it? So it's not a question of me discouraging people. I'm trying to show that yes, we really do know. Just like people knew there was a COVID vaccine, and they can tell you most of the population did not get it. And not because based out of facts, no, but why should I? I have not got it. You get. Or if I have it, I'll take tangawizi and I'll get well. Yeah, because we have things we do to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
It could be indulgence, it could be overworking, it could be anything. There are things we have adapted to cope by. But the point of where I come and sit down with, say you are Dr. Nekesa, hey Dr. Nekesa, I really have this and I would really like to show. One, that takes a lot of courage. Number two, that means addressing. And if I look at common sense, it's not something you just do. It's not something you just do. It has to be in certain circumstances. And the fact that I said we need to go to the dentist, otherwise the perversion would spread to the entire body is one, it doesn't remove the pain. That pain. How many of us want to face it?
But you're equipped to tools of how to deal with the pain and all the other occurrences of.
The last time I was a dentist, I had screams. Okay, I'm not saying that I screamed, but I had screams. The whole point is this. The thing is, the information is there, but one thing is, we need to show up for our friends. We need to hold their hands while they do this, because it may not help with the pain, but it helps to know that someone is squeezing your hand while at it to distract you. So the thing is, yes, seek mental help, yes, but trust me, that's when you need your friends most to hold your hand. That's when you need someone to say, you know what, I can't promise you that things will get better, but I am here anyway. That really does it much. That will give me the courage even to go to seek help.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to do two things for me. So we've painted the problem that youth, indulgence, wasting away, and blah blah blah. We've gone round. We've tackled every facet of the youth in terms of work, family, So, what are we doing differently? What are we going to do differently from this conversation? That's the first thing I want you to tell me, and whether you have a partition.
Okay.
You say it.
So how do we go from here? One, when it comes to how we relate to each other and all that, let's be open to the idea that we're going to be hurt, by all this, but it doesn't mean that it is not one. Number two, our life is happy in the measure that we are responsible for something other than ourselves. So it's not about a me culture. It's more about how best can I actively shape the world around me for the better, whatever that means. Yes. Number three, it takes courage to seek help. And that's what makes it worthwhile that you do. One, you exercise your courage. Number two, then you get to work along it. You see, the news is not that we've fallen. The news is that we get up each time. So the idea is fall 7 times and get up 8 times. That's, don't give in to losing yourself to other things. Well, they just exercise dominion over you, and it compounds the problem. It adds on to it. So avoid avoidance and accept accountability and responsibility for your action. That is when you will say, you know what, I need help. Yes, that's when you get the courage to, you know what, this is what I'm going through. I don't know what you're going to do about it, but you better fix it. And you have to believe in something. Personally, I believe in God, so He gets me through. He gets me through. But I don't know about you, but I tell you, it's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, Raphael. Guys, you had it. Hope, 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 right?
Yes.
Hope, hope, hope. Like carry the message of hope.
Oh, yes.
That's what I had from what you said.
Yes, but of course.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's continue talking and have a good one.